Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the Uncle Wristlock podcast. I wasn't planning on doing this for a couple months, but I had to hop on today uh, because big day. Got my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt today. It was a real surprise. Um, and so might talk about that a little bit. Uh, but yeah, just wanted to hop on and get the podcast started because that's one principle from jujitsu is don't wait until you're ready to start. Just start. If you're thinking about it, um, I just encourage you to get going on it. Start of 2024. If you've been thinking about it, go for it. Um, so why the Uncle Wristlock podcast? Um, well, Uncle Wristlock, where does that come from? So that's a nickname that I've embraced. I've taken it on. Nina, our gym manager at Brazilian Top Team in Happy Valley here in Oregon, uh, mentioned that that's the nickname she has for me a couple months ago, and it's kind of a joke, kind of tongue in cheek. Um, because I've been spamming and trying to catch people with wrist locks the past couple of years. So I'm kind of notorious for that as an old man jujitsu player with poor cardio. Um, uh, so uh, that's what nickname I got. But I really like it because it represents a lot about me and what I'm hoping this podcast will be. So one, Uncle, um, Brazilian Top Team Happy Valley, and the other gyms here in town. We're a family, and I love that it's a family atmosphere. And for many gyms and academies, training jujitsu, it's part of being a family, but sometimes not, right? Sometimes it can just be a business. Sometimes it can be super competitive, and people are not looking out for each other. But that's the culture that we have at the gym, and that's one of the things that I love about jujitsu. So, and that's the role that I want to play in our gym or wherever I train. Is I'm at the age where I'm not trying to be super competitive and dominate people and um uh it I'm trying to give back at this point. This month is year 23 uh with MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Um, actually started a couple of years of karate when I was a kid, starting in 1977. So I might talk about that a little bit more in future episodes. So, Uncle, part of the culture, I want to be a mentor. I want to be a coach. I want to help people improve in the gym. I love uh, I love training. I love jujitsu, and so I just want to share the love of the sport. Uh, I'm a Brazilian jiu-jitsu nerd. I love breaking down the technique. I love the problem solving, the creativity, um, the science of it, um, the, just all the aspects, performance, competition. Uh, I love it all, and so um, and I just love sharing the passion for the art, the science of it, the the joy of it, but also the the journey of it and how jujitsu improves our lives and builds people up physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, relationally. It just has so many positive benefits, and so that's the uncle part. And part of my culture, Asian culture, half Cambodian, half Filipino. Um, both Filipinos and Cambodians, friends of your parents, your aunts and uncles. Basically, people your parents' age are aunts and uncles, and so I'm training with people in the gym who are as young or even much younger than my kids at this point. I just became a grandpa for the second time a couple weeks ago, and looking forward to training my granddaughters and grandsons. Um, when they're ready to hit the mats. So that's the wow, that was long. We're gonna have fun on this podcast talking about jujitsu. Um, so the uncle part, that's the uncle part. The wrist lock part, I think, represents, like I said, I'm a technique nerd. Um, but it also, for me, represents a little bit the transition from traditional martial arts to Brazilian jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts, Vale Tudo, no holds barred back in the day when I started as NHB. Um, so, but trying to retain a little bit of the continuity, honor the I mean, I love so much about martial arts, even the like fight choreography, um, kung fu movies. I grew up watching black belt theater. I got into karate when I was 7 years old because my uncle loved Bruce Lee, and encouraged me to get started in karate. Uh, so I studied Okinawan style Goju-Ryu karate back then. So the wrist lock part is it's low percentage. I drive my coaches crazy. I know they're just being nice, um, but they shake their heads. I know, but I I I like the all the aspects of it, the intricate stuff, even the I'm confessing, even the unrealistic stuff is fun because I like John Wick and wushu movies and Jackie Chan and like martial arts, um and so besides the practicalities of jujitsu, the sport of it, but also the self-defense aspects of it, love that part. And that's one key reason why I studied it when my kids were young, and especially for my daughters, I wanted realistic martial arts training. um, uh, but I still like the flashy and the fun stuff. um, uh, our our gym is our coaches and black belts and brown belts. They are elite competitors on the jiu-jitsu scene. So they do very realistic, high percentage, practical stuff. They keep it real. Um, so uh, they help keep me in check. Um, but yeah, I still like when I was studying karate, later on I got a black belt in Kempo, started doing karate again in 1993. Um, uh, you know, tournaments, doing kata, like so extreme martial arts. They call it XMA now, but and tricking. Back then they didn't call it XMA, so it evolved into that. But capoeira and breakdancing. I studied I did breakdancing 40 years ago when I was in junior high and high school. Um, so I just love movement. I love, you know, it's fun. So, it's it starting martial arts when I was 7. It's just like something I've loved for a lifetime. So the wrist lock is it, so part of the podcast might be interviewing folks that have also made the transition from other martial arts into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So let me know if you want to talk about your journey, about your story. I definitely want to talk to some wrestlers. I already have some people in mind about making the transition to Jiu-Jitsu. Have some friends who study Taekwondo. I mean, lots of people have studied Taekwondo. So how do you successfully transition from a stand-up art, from karate, taekwondo, into a grappling art, into Brazilian jiu-jitsu? We're going to have some episodes about that. um, we're going to talk about mixed martial arts. I competed twice a long time ago, and was part of Team Quest martial arts here in Portland, Oregon. So hopefully have some MMA fighters. Many of the coaches in our gym competed in martial arts. When I started at the gym about Brazilian top team about 12 years ago, I'm estimating. Uh, uh, there were guys competing in fights locally like every week on the whiteboard in the lobby. There was the guys signed up for fighting. So it was very active gym, lots of former wrestlers, lots of tough guys. Um, we don't have a cage in the gym anymore for mat space, but that was a prominent aspect of my first jiu-jitsu lesson was in an MMA cage. Um, uh, uh, at Brazilian Top Team, and so those are the roots. So uh, yeah, I like uh, that's something I'm thinking we're gonna conversations we're gonna have. So two of my favorite podcasts for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu are BJJ Mental Models. They talk technique, they break it down, they interview competitors and instructors, and they talk about different aspects of different games, different areas to improve, and they break down technique and different aspects of jujitsu. So that's something I like to do. Um, and then uh, BJJ Fanatics podcast. And again, they interview competitors and gym owners, and um, but this podcast is a podcast for everyday people, for hobbyists, because white belts and blue belts can be just as obsessed about jujitsu as purple, brown, black belts. Once you catch the bug, and um, and whether you're a white belt or a black belt, um, jujitsu can mean something very significant and important in your life, and can be very meaningful. Um, and so that's what I want to talk to people about. Like, what difference does jujitsu make in your life, or even in your family's life? Like our gym has a thriving, big kids program, teen program, lots of families. And so hopefully I'm going to have some coaches and parents come on and talk about how they do jujitsu as a family together. We've got a few couples that compete, that coach. How does jujitsu affect like the rhythm of training? Daily, weekly, monthly rhythms of training. And then how does jujitsu change and evolve the older you get, when you're in your 20s, when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and on. I don't think I mentioned I got my black belt today. And then I turned 53 last September. And so over 50 jujitsu is different than even 40. I know sometimes people can think like, oh man, 40 is hard. It's like, guys, 50, 50 is harder. Um, but we're making it work. And I'm excited. Like I've been working hard the last few years, especially coming out of the pandemic, like playing catch up. That felt like, you know, a setback. It was frustrating. It was depressing. We might even talk about that. um, but getting back to it, getting consistent, finding a rhythm, enjoying the variety of no gi and gi, has been fun. Um, and constantly uh, improving. So we'll talk about that. Talk about how to set goals, how to develop your game, like how do you choose a game, um, finding something that works for your personality, your body type, any limitations you have, and how do you grow and overcome those limitations, and yeah, and get better, because getting better is fun. Um, and yeah, what else? Oh, okay. So, uh, I as I was thinking about hitting record, I was thinking about maybe I'll do a list of 23 things to to represent 23 years of trying to get a black belt, or working towards getting a black belt. Various things to help and improve your jujitsu, things I wish I had known back then, or as a white belt. I don't know if I'm gonna. Maybe I'll do a whole separate episode for that because I didn't write them down. But I'll say a few things. I'll say a few things since this huge journey is fresh on my mind today. One, like I said, family. Find good people to train with because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them, right? So find somewhere that you feel safe and supported. Now, jujitsu is not a safe, quote unquote, super safe sport. Like, uh, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, you develop grit and perseverance and toughness, um, and confidence when things are challenging and difficult. So, but it's not unsafe. Um, Good coaches, good training partners can make it safe, and so it's both not safe and it's safe. It can be, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Um, but find good people. Find people that care about you, that you can trust, because jujitsu it's a vulnerable. There's lots of vulnerability in jujitsu. Even going to a gym can be risky, right? It especially if you feel out of shape or you've maybe you struggle with depression or anxiety, and so it's hard, the idea of doing jujitsu. Um, uh, it builds confidence. Um, you develop step by step by just showing up, by just going. And I eat, I was reflecting on the statement that every every time I step on the mats, every hour, every class that I went to, I got better. Like, is that hyperbole? And maybe it's not 100% the case, but the I do think it's true that even if technically skill wise you didn't get better every single time you go, the act of going and putting in the hours and days and weeks and months and years develops your skill, your the jujitsu. And even if it's not the skill, it develops you mentally and emotionally to go when you didn't want to go. It develops perseverance. It develops just consistency. So you have this like wellspring of like evidence that you can do it. It's not just wishful thinking. Um, it's not just talk. It helps you develop uh, healthy habits, healthy routines, and it spills over the discipline and perseverance. It and character. It spills over into other aspects of your life. Find good people, get started, go. Um, what else? What's a practical thing? Oh, learn how to wrestle. uh, um, so many of our coaches at our gym have a wrestling background, so we're biased. And when I started at Team Quest Martial Arts. The first week I was there, I had a front headlock lesson, a whole like a class with Dan Henderson, um, and he showed me front headlock. And for the last 20 years plus years, like front headlock and a proper front headlock is like part of my game, and underhook and hand fight. So learn how to hand fight, learn how to have a strong neck and posture, learn learn how to wrestle. Um, don't get into the habit too soon of just pulling guard. Like I admit, like I'll try to wrestle with people now, but I also will pull guard as needed. But when you're young, uh, uh, put some work in, put some time in, develop your stand up game, develop some good wrestling because it's going that way, right? ADCC, no gi, um, we all got to learn how to wrestle, guys. Okay, that's a few things. I don't want to go too long today. Um, wherever you're at in the jujitsu journey, I just encourage you to just keep going. Take breaks as needed. You know, I had to do that. Sometimes gaps of years. Had to prioritize family. Um, and you know, have to have balance with work, life, relationships, with the gym, with jujitsu. So it looks different in different seasons of life. Uh, but yeah, take some time here. Beginning of the year, where are you at, and like what's next? What do you want to focus on this year? What do you what what part does do you want jujitsu to play in your life this year? Um, is it too? Has it been too much? Was it too much last year? Was it not enough, and you could push yourself a little bit more? Were you being or were you being too easy on yourself this year? I was. I need to get consistently in the gym. Oh, I'm saying it out loud, and now you're gonna know. I m- m- Here at the start of the year, my goal is to get in at least on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. At least. Um, and then maybe more when I have cancellations and with work and can make some morning no-gi classes. Um, so that's my goal. Um, so were you too easy on yourself? Can you push yourself and stretch yourself a little bit more? Were you too hard on yourself? And putting too much pressure, too much expectation, um, too much instructionals, and reviewing your roles at night before you go to bed. You know, is it too much? Um, and then is it just right for your goals? Um, so uh, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Was it? Please like, share, and subscribe or something like that. And let me know what types of podcast episodes you're interested in. Let me know if you'd like to come on and talk about it. And yeah, thanks, guys. Take it easy. Until next time.